Passing through the asteroid belt far behind Mars, we reach Jupiter, one of the most magnificent planets in the solar system. Being fifth in line from the Sun, Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system. This bright gas giant, named after Jupiter, the Roman god and the kings of the gods, has an average distance from the Sun of about 778 million kilometers, an equatorial diameter of about 88,900 miles, and a radius of about 71,000 kilometers, making it 11 times wider than the Earth and 300 times more massive. In comparison, if we as the Earth were a grape, Jupiter would be a basketball. With a gravitational magnetic field 20,000 times stronger than the Earth's, giving it the extreme ability to attract as many as 80 moons into its orbit, with 4 of the largest moons in our solar system. The Jovian satellites were likely formed out of leftover materials after the formation of Jupiter was created in the initial cloud of gas and dust surrounding our Sun, called the solar nebula. In 1610, Galileo Galilei witnessed a phenomenon when he was observing Jupiter through his refracting telescope. He saw that Jupiter has 4 little stars orbiting and revolving around it, and not the Earth. Within a few days, Galileo figured out that these little stars weren't stars, but in fact moons that were in Jupiter's own little solar system. Due to this fascinating discovery, Galileo helped seal the fact on the Copernican model and helped further the development of the Kepler laws of motion. In his honor, the moons that were once named after Roman numerals 1 through 4 were now called the Galilean moons. In retrospect to the solar system in its entirety, Ganymede is the largest moon not only to Jupiter but to the entire solar system, Callisto being the 3rd largest moon after Titan, Saturn's largest moon, Io being the 4th largest, and Europa coming in at number 6 right after the Earth's moon. In this presentation, we will be discussing the 4 Galilean moons of Jupiter. First up is Io, the closest moon to Jupiter and the next closest thing we can find to Hell in our solar system. Io is top tier when it comes to having the highest density, the strongest surface gravity, and the lowest amount of water, beating out all the other moons in the solar system. In a world of its own, Io is the 3rd largest Galilean moon and the hottest moon. With a size slightly larger than the Earth's moon, Io reaches a diameter of about 3,600 kilometers. The surface of Io is currently plagued with over 400 active volcanoes, thus making it the most geologically active astronomical object in our solar system. Pictures of Io show just how much of an active moon it is and how it also looks like moldy cheese. Discovered by Galileo on January 8th of 1610, receiving its name after Io, the priestess of Hera. Io was one of Zeus' many adulterous lovers who was turned into a white heifer by Zeus to protect her from Hera's wrathful jealousy. To continue in his infidelity, Zeus turned himself into a dark cloud, but his wife Juno caught him in the act again. In fact, in 2011, NASA launched a mission named after Hera called Juno. Hera was known as Juno in the Roman mythology. The Juno mission to Jupiter sent a spacecraft to uncover all the secrets hidden in Jupiter's upper cloudy atmosphere, similar to how Juno peered and peeked through the clouds to reveal Zeus, aka Jupiter, in Roman mythology, unfaithfulness. The Galileo spacecraft performed numerous of close flyby missions between the 90s to the early 2000s that gave us new data information that unveiled the interior structure and surface composition of Io. Io is a rather young moon, even with all the current activity constantly happening on the moon, such as the powerful yet violent volcanic eruptions so vigorous that they can be seen from Earth with a large telescope. Due to the ongoing volcanic activity and periodic eruptions, its surface is constantly changing. This explains why Io lacks craters compared to other moons, because molten lava lakes from the erupting volcanoes are constantly filling them. The same stuff we sometimes use to preserve dry food here on Earth is the exact same chemical element that makes up most of Io's very thin atmosphere, sulfur dioxide. The brown, black, and red color spots seen on the moon are recently active volcanic eruptions, while the white and yellow colors is from the volcanic gases that derive from sulfur dioxide and sulfur deposit gases. There are two things Io and Earth share in common: volcanoes and outgassing. Io's tall volcanoes resembles Earth's low-slope, mid-ocean ridge volcanoes in appearance and in gas emissions. Gases like sulfur-based dioxide on Io and the mixture of water, carbon dioxide, and sulfur dioxide here on Earth. And although Io's composition isn't fully known, it is suggested by Galileo spacecraft data that Io supposedly has an iron core. Furthermore, Io has a slightly elliptical orbit and orbital resonance and is tidal locked to Jupiter. A 4 to 2 to 1 ratio is the orbital resonance set up for Jupiter's 3 inner moons. Io completes 4 orbits, Europa completes 2, and Ganymede completes 1, and they all share an orbital resonance to Jupiter that orders them in line every 7 days, thus explaining why Io has a tremendous tidal force, an elliptical-shaped orbit, and is such an active moon. In the multiplayer game called Destiny 2 The Expansion Beyond Light, Europa plays a big role in the game's storyline. The moon on the game is depicted as a planet in ruins after an old human colony went extinct, leaving it a cold, icy, desolated place. Although this game is fictional and fabricated with imagination, Europa is a real and geologically active place in our solar system. Europa was discovered by Galileo in 1610 on January 8th and was also named after one of the many lovers of Zeus. The name originated from a Phoenician princess that was the mother of King Minos of Crete. With the name derived from a mother figure, perhaps astronomer Johannes Kepler was right on the nose with this moon's potential for life-bearing properties. Europa is a potential location for habitable life and has captured the curiosity and imagination of scientists, astronomers, and astrobiologists, as well as ordinary people outside the field of space science. With a diameter slightly smaller than the Earth's moon at about 3,100 kilometers, Europa is the smallest of the 4 Galilean satellites. And even though Europa is a bit smaller than our moon, it still surpasses it with a brightness so great that it would illuminate our night sky 5 times more with its reflectiveness. Like our terrestrial planet, Europa is composed primarily of silicate rock in its mantle, but has a watery/icy crust with possibly an iron core and an extremely thin oxygen-based atmosphere. But unlike the Earth, however, Europa oceans may contain twice as much water than all the water in the Earth's oceans combined, with an icy shell 10 to 15 miles thick, floating on an ocean 40 to 100 miles deep. Although having the smoothest surface in the solar system, Europa, on the contrary, has a quite visibly intense striated surface with many cracks and streaks. Only a few impact craters are visible on the surface of Europa due to its hot interior, which affects the frozen surface and makes it appear younger. Observations from the Hubble, as well as reanalysis of data that was collected from the Galileo spacecraft, suggested that it is possible that thin plumes of warm water is being ejected from Europa's surface at 100 kilometers, causing it to crack, which could explain why the surface terrain looks like suspended jumbles of iceberg in a place where liquid or slushy water is frozen. Future missions could analyze water vapor samples to learn more about the ocean's makeup and determine whether Europa truly has the capacity to support life. Now onto the big daddy of all moons, Ganymede. Being the very first moon Galileo noticed in his radical discovery of 4 large moons orbiting around Jupiter on January 7th of 1610. The name for Ganymede originated when a divine hero and the most beautiful of all mortals was later abducted by Zeus, who disguised himself as an eagle to make Ganymede, a young boy from Troy, his cupbearer. With an impressive diameter of about 5,200 kilometers, Ganymede is bigger than Titan and Mercury. Because of Ganymede's cold temperatures, it doesn't have a dense atmosphere to trap in the little heat it does receive from the sun due to its thin oxygen-based atmosphere. Like the other 2 icy Galilean moons, Ganymede is composed of mostly liquid water and ice with equal parts of unknown rocky material. Ganymede has two different surface terrain types as seen in images from the Galileo mission. 60% of the surface is made up of younger but still ancient as dust, and lighter regions marked by a vast array of grooves and ridges that reach heights up to 2,000 feet and run for thousands of miles across the surface, while the very old, heavily cratered, and darker regions cover 40% of the moon's surface. Like a club sandwich, Ganymede has multiple layers of ice and ocean stacked up, agreeing to the strong evidence that this moon has an underground subsurface salty ocean. The intriguing findings from the Galileo spacecraft could give us reasons as to why Ganymede has its own magnetic field. This is special because no moon has the ability to have its own region of charged particles that surround it. This is generally found among planets but not moons. The closer a moon or object is to Jupiter, the more susceptible it is to Jupiter's own magnetic field and radiation belts, so Ganymede and Callisto are better off than Io and Europa. Being the star in a few pop culture entertainment, Ganymede has played a role in TV series such as Cowboy Bebop and Star Hunter, inspiring writers' favorite locations for sci-fi books like Cold as Ice by Charles Stratfield and The Ice Orphan of Ganymede by Leonardo Ramirez, and making its musical debut with indie pop group Brazzaville that named their album and track title for their album The Oceans of Ganymede.
We'll meet in the oceans of Ganymede.
And staying on the musical note, Ganymede, funny enough, whistles to its own tune. In an audio recording from a plasma wave that was pulled from data returned by the Galileo spacecraft, we can hear Ganymede whistling and hissing that was caused by its magnetosphere. And lastly, we reach one of the oldest moons in our solar system, Callisto. A moon that was once deemed dead and boring to scientists due from the lack of activity such as volcanoes or shifting tectonic plates was written off and wasn't hardly on astronomers' or scientists' radars. Until data retrieved from the Galileo spacecraft in 1990 revealed something interesting enough to put Callisto back onto astronomers' and scientists' radars. Results from the data showed that Callisto may have a salty subsurface ocean at a depth of 250 kilometers like Europa and Ganymede. Callisto was discovered by Galileo on January 7th of 1610 and received its name from a woman who was turned into a bear by Zeus. Callisto in Greek mythology was a nymph, or the daughter of Lycaon, the guy that fed Zeus's own son roasted flesh to see whether Zeus was truly all-knowing and omniscient. Callisto, who later attracted Zeus, was said to be a follower of the goddess of hunt, Artemis. With a diameter of about 4,800 kilometers, Callisto is the second largest Galilean moon. Callisto is the outermost among the three inner moons, being 1.9 kilometers away from Jupiter. While Io, the closest moon, take almost 2 Earth days, 42 hours, to make one complete orbit around Jupiter, Callisto, the furthest moon, completes one orbit in about 17 Earth days. Unlike its neighboring moons, Callisto is not in the same orbital resonance to Jupiter as the three inner moons. Even though Callisto is tidal locked to Jupiter, showing the same face as it orbits, it doesn't have any considerable tidal heating due to no resonance. Located just outside of Jupiter's radiation belt, Callisto is much safer and is less affected by Jupiter's magnetic field than the other three Galilean moons. With the lowest density and surface gravity of Jupiter's major inner satellites, Callisto has a very thin carbon dioxide-based atmosphere and is composed of mostly equal parts of rock and ice. Its interior may also have layers of ice mixed with metal and rock that can more than likely extend to its center. The surface of this moon is icy and covered by numerous of craters varying in shape and sizes. Battered and beaten with impact craters shaped like bowls, others with multiple rings and waves, and some with chains of craters that cover the surface of Callisto, making it the oldest and most heavily cratered moon in the solar system, possibly at 4 billion years old. Looking closely at Callisto, you can see sparkles of bright white dots across its surface, causing scientists to think that peaks of the craters are capped with water ice. With the likely presence of an ocean, Callisto, along with the other two icy moons, Europa and Ganymede, leaves a big possibility to the potential of harboring life. We are still a far way off from making any groundbreaking discoveries, even though future missions to the Galilean system sounds promising, such as the Jupiter Icy Moon Explorer, aka the JUICE mission, the Europa Clipper mission, and the Io Volcano Observer mission. The European Space Agency plans to orbit the three icy Galilean moons, Ganymede, Callisto, and Europa, to investigate the formation of these moons and their chances for habitability in the JUICE mission. The Europa Clipper mission, planned by NASA, is a mission focused solely on Europa, happening hopefully in October 2024, where an orbiter will investigate whether the icy moon can harbor conditions suitable for life. And the Io Volcano Observer, a mission proposing to be launched in January 2029, where scientists is hoping to understand Io's tidal heating as a fundamental planetary process and how Io is evolving. These moons open a world of possibilities and reveal to us something even more exciting to what scientists and astronomers know now. The Galilean system is full of mysteries and secrets waiting to be uncovered and revealed.